West Hobart Haunted House.
West Hobart is an inner-city suburb located in Tasmania, Australia. Over the years, dozens of allegations of supposed hauntings, ghost apparitions,
And it's honestly not too hard to see why, as West Hobart is a pretty old town with a generally creepy vibe. As is usually the case, most of these stories have either turned out to be fake, or the people making the which makes it almost entirely likely that they're hoaxes.
But as it turns out, at least one of these stories actually has some amount of truth to it. Back in the late 80s and mid-90s, rumors started spreading of a house in West Hobart that was apparently...
At first, the rumors created a huge buzz all over town, with the locals doing everything possible to stay.
It wasn't until later that the authorities got involved and finally got a clear picture.
While it was true that the house's residents appeared to be going insane, it didn't have anything to do with paranormal activity. But with the fact that a Datura vine had been growing through the trees directly above the home and dropped for a long time, the family had been inadvertently consuming microdoses of the plant every single day, which made them slowly but surely start to lose their sanity as they sank further and further into delirium.
In case you've never heard of it, Datura is a species of plant within the nightshade family,
Also known as Jimson weed, the devil's weed, or devil's trumpet, and you'll see why in a second.
Even though the plant itself looks pretty harmless, it's known for having extremely powerful hallucinogenic properties.
Which is why it was used for centuries by Native American tribes in coming-of-age rituals and other important ceremonies.
The Aztecs also used Datura as a painkiller in certain rituals, namely in
It's used in the zombification ritual, referred to as the devil's cucumber.
As you can probably tell by now, Datura isn't your typical recreational hallucinogen. And there's a reason why it's really only ever used in hardcore spiritual rituals and ceremonies. And sometimes by naive people who have no idea what they're getting themselves into. In low to medium doses, Datura causes extremely distressing.
Nowadays, Datura is recognized by most tribes as a highly toxic and dangerous plant.
Before we move on, I wanted to take a minute to talk about War Thunder, the sponsor of this video. As of recently, I've had a growing interest in history, specifically World War I and II.
So when War Thunder reached out, it was perfect. War Thunder is a realistic multiplayer action game where you take control of ground vehicles.
It's completely free to play, available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox.
One thing I really like about the game is its realism.
Forget unrealistic features like health bars. In War Thunder, every hit on an enemy has a real effect.
Like if you're accurate enough to hit a plane's fuel tank, it will ignite.
And you can visualize all the damage you've done with the X-ray mode.
War Thunder includes all advanced military technology, like guided missiles or even a nuclear strike that can flatten entire maps, making for a true modern war experience. Plus, all vehicles in the game can be upgraded and
even visual changes like skins can be used to make your combat machine unique.
The Seek and Destroy update is out now, which added new missiles with active radar, making aerial battles on modern aircraft even.
And they added 2 new maps, Mysterious Valley and Bering Sea.
If you've been wanting to try War Thunder, now is the time. You can download it for free by using the link in the description.
New players and those who haven't played War Thunder for half a year or more will receive special bonuses.
Rentals for the P-40E-1 aircraft and M4 tank for a week, along with 3 unique skins for them. A special Decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, 3 premium vehicles for free.
A week of premium account and even more gifts.
The American Vehicle bonus season will end soon, so make sure you get in on it now.
Cropsey.
If you were to somehow go back to the 70s and spend some time in Staten Island, it probably wouldn't take you long to hear about it.
As the story went, Cropsey his son and resorted to stealing other people's children to deal with his grief.
According to the legend, this figure also had a unique, non-organic hand feature, with visible signs and a generally horrifying appearance. Considering the mass areas of uninhabited woodlands, it's not all that unexpected that a tale like the— Fortunately, this wasn't just a tall tale made up by Staten Island parents to keep their kids from venturing too far into the woods and getting lost.
Although the legend has some obviously made-up elements, such as the hooked hand and the horrifying scars and burns.
At some point in the early 70s, children in Staten Island really did start disappearing.
That's when the line between legend and reality started to blur, and the story of the real Cropsey.
This is the real story.
A man from Manhattan who was born in 1944 and moved to Staten Island in the late 60s. After working for 2 years at an institution known for its challenging conditions for children with special needs. This individual was arrested in 1969 and served over a year in prison for the attempted harmful act against a 9-year-old girl. As soon as he was released 16 months later, reports started cropping up of more young individuals disappearing all over the local area, including a 5-year-old girl who was playing in her building's lobby when she suddenly disappeared without a trace. Over the next decade, Rand was the prime suspect in the disappearances and deaths of several other young girls in the area.
But it wasn't until 1983 when he picked up 11 kids from a local YMCA and brought them fast food.
Before taking them to the airport, he was finally arrested and sentenced to 10 months in prison again. Throughout the 70s and 80s, dozens of young kids disappeared in the local area. And although this man was often the last person to be seen with them, there was ultimately never another. For many years, he would often be seen interacting with young kids, going on walks with them.
After years of letting him walk the streets as a free man, police would finally have a breakthrough.
When they found undeniable evidence that Rand had been behind the disappearance and murder of Jennifer Schweiger. In 1988, he was sentenced to 25 years to life. And while he was behind, unfortunately, he was only charged with one additional major crime in 2004, which was the unlawful abduction of a young person, thanks to which he will spend the next 13 years behind bars until 2037.
If he lives that long, he'll be 93 by the time he gets out.
The Maine Hermit.
The Kennebec Valley is one of the most beautiful regions in Maine, with over 5,000 square.
Many cabin owners of the North Pond area in the Kennebec Valley have described the area as the most peaceful place on Earth.
But it hasn't always been that way.
All throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, there were reports of over 1,000 break-ins in the North Pond cabins. For decades, nobody knew who was responsible for the thefts, especially since they were always carried out when there was no one home. As the cabin owners soon noticed, the break-ins seemed to follow a pattern, always peaking in the diverse. As for the stolen items themselves, they ranged from food to cooking utensils. In the absence of a concrete suspect, the locals eventually named the thief the North Pond Hermit. Even though by this point, there was nothing to suggest the break-ins were being carried out by a single person.
Although it wasn't uncommon for groups of homeowners to venture out into the woods to try to find the North Pond,
which only added to the legend's mystery. For years, nobody thought that the person or people behind the break-ins would ever be found.
In April 2013, Christopher Thomas Knight was arrested. He was arrested in the woods by an officer.
As soon as he was brought to the police station, the cops asked him why he wasn't answering any of their questions. At first, it seemed as though he was having trouble speaking, but eventually responded that he was ashamed of himself. As it was later revealed, this individual had been living out in the middle of the woods by himself in an unheated nylon tent, surviving only on the things he stole from nearby North Pond cabins.
Shockingly, he had survived winter temperatures of 20 degrees below zero for years.
What's most incredible about the Hermit's story is that for the entire time he lived in the woods,
except for one time when he ran into a hiker and only said hi.
Understandably, this man had lost interest in keeping track of time. He replied since a significant historical. As investigators later found out, he was 20 years old when he decided to become a hermit.
Although he never gave the authorities a real reason why he decided to disappear.
In all his years of isolation, he went to extreme lengths to preserve his privacy. He never lit fires, only moved at night, and hadn't had any kind of communication. He'd never driven a car, sent an email, or even known what the internet was until his arrest. Interestingly, as the cops dug deeper and deeper into his story, they realized that his only real possessions were his glasses, which he had been wearing for 30 years and could even be seen in his local high school yearbook picture from 1984. Everything else, down to his underwear and jacket, had been acquired from various sources. After the investigation, this individual was sentenced to 7 months in prison, after which he once again disappeared.
According to the authorities, he's now living a quiet, peaceful life in a rural area.
Purple Aki. Throughout the late 1980s and 90s, rumors of a massive bodybuilder.
According to the allegations, this individual would supposedly walk the streets of a city, seeking out young muscular men and athletes, and oddly ask them if he could examine their physical attributes. If they complained, he would allegedly maintain physical contact for much longer than was considered socially acceptable,
and would then ask them to perform squats so he could observe their leg strength.
Some teenagers reported that this individual even went as far as to ask them to pose for him,
and often offered exercise and nutrition advice for those who gave him the time. Because the rumors were so incredibly unusual, nobody really took them too seriously at first. And eventually, the story of this individual turned into an urban legend, with exaggerated details being gradually added to the tale, including one where this individual would allegedly engage in highly unusual and exaggerated interactions with young people.
But as time went on, it became clear that Purple Aki wasn't just a made-up character created by
but a real person known by a specific name. This individual was often seen traveling across the region by train, carrying a plastic bag and askers. Naturally, this made a lot of people uncomfortable, and it wasn't uncommon for the individual's image. Most of the accusations against him were related to his unsettling interactions with young people. But
early that year, a 16-year-old young man was walking home from school when he ran into this individual.
Freaked out by the unusual request, the young man said no and ran away. Later that same year, a Hispanic woman named Aki followed a Hispanic man named Gary to a local outdoor swimming pool.
Sadly, the story ended in tragedy, as the young man suffered a fatal accident involving the railway infrastructure. And considering the whole thing happened because the young man was being pursued, this individual was found responsible for a...
In 1988, this individual filed an appeal and claimed unfair treatment.
Ultimately, the judges agreed there wasn't enough evidence to prove this individual had been directly responsible.
Between 1988 and 2006, this individual went in and out of jail for failing to resist.
And in 2003, he was arrested for an additional 15 charges of inappropriate conduct. And
like any individual with concerning behaviors, he was also forbidden from waiting outside schools in the area.
A few months later, he was jailed for 15 months for getting up to his same antics. Upon his release, he was once again arrested a few weeks later in 2010, and then again in 2015.
After his latest release, he reportedly moved to another city, where rumors started cropping up that he had passed away during the pandemic. However, those rumors were put to rest when videos started surfacing in 2023 of this individual walking. As of today, this individual is alive and well and will probably continue in his same behavior.
Le Loyon.
According to a Swiss urban legend, people have allegedly been running into a mysterious human-like figure.
Based on the dozens of allegations that surfaced over the years, the figure has been described as being around.
Most people who supposedly ran into the figure reported he or she was completely harmless.
And it wasn't uncommon for people to report the figure to the authorities when their children reported feeling scared. As expected, it didn't take local residents long to start adding their own crazy twists to the story,
with some claiming that the creature was the ghost of a mentally unstable soldier, while other popular theories assured it was an alien.
For a while, the story was classified as an urban legend, and the mysterious humanoid was given the name Le Loyon,
also known as the Ghost, or the Hermit of Maules.
Throughout the early 2000s, Le Loyon was mostly the subject of locals. But in 2013, the story gained international attention when the Swiss-French newspaper. After the photograph was published, there was no turning back, as patient. The last known sighting of Le Loyon took place in June 2013, when a local...
Later that year, Le Loyon's clothes were found in the middle of the woods.
In the letter, Le Loyon accused the media of having murdered a harmless being by...
The letter also mentioned that due to the unwanted attention, Le Loyon had to abandon its daily walks.
After the cryptic note was published in the newspaper, many people concluded that Le Loyon had taken. As of 2024, nobody has ever seen Le Loyon's true face, and
but this line of reasoning will probably remain unconfirmed forever.
The Bunny Man.
In the early 70s, dozens of locals started reporting that a man dressed up as a bunny had started legends. Although dressing up as a bunny in itself seems pretty harmless, even though sightings of the so-called Bunny Man were pretty rare, they seem to follow a pattern. The story itself has a lot of elements of a typical urban legend and is kind of hard to believe. But through my research, I found that it's all loosely based on a true story.
In 1970, a couple was parked in a driveway close to a bridge on Colchester Road in Fairfax County,
when suddenly a random guy appeared out of nowhere, yelled at them for allegedly trespassing, and threw a hatchet at their car.
Terrified, the couple left the area immediately, before they had a chance to get a good look at the guy.
As they reported the incident to the police, they mentioned the guy had been dressed in light-colored clothing and may or may not have been wearing something white on his head. Although the couple never mentioned anything about a bunny in their statement, as soon as the story hit the
Pretty soon, rumors of a man in a bunny suit threatening kids in the woods with a hatchet started surfacing all over the DMV area.
And as the years went by, the stories got wilder and harder to believe. As of the uploading of this video, the legend has now been standardized and goes something like this.
In 1904, there was allegedly an asylum close to the bridge on Colchester Road.
As soon as it was built, a bunch of Fairfax County residents started complaining about the idea. But on the way to the prison, the bus crashed, and all the patients escaped.
As the story goes, a few hours later, the cops had successfully located and brought back all the patients.
This is where the legend gets a little weird. Allegedly, the fugitive patient hid in the woods from the authorities for weeks. As the days went by and the cops did everything to find him. Then, one Halloween night, a group of kids were hanging out near the bridge on Colchester Road. A second later, they were all found in a precarious and unsettling position beneath the structure. As the legend goes, if you go to Bunnyman Bridge on Halloween night at midnight, the same thing will happen to you.
Obviously, none of this is true, but it just goes to show how much of an impact the story of the Bunnyman has had on mainstream.
Nowadays, there's even Bunnyman t-shirts, a Bunnyman horror movie franchise, Bunnyman beer, and everything in between.
Needless to say, the area surrounding the railroad overpass near a local station